What if Luffy was Rock's son, Rox D. Xebec, the most feared pirate in history, so dangerous the world government erased him from existence? His dream was domination, his crew a lineup of future legends. But what if his bloodline never died? What if Monkey D. Luffy, the world's greatest force for freedom, was his grandson? Would that make him a hero, or the return of chaos itself? Who was Rox D. Xebec? The most feared pirate in history, Rox D. Xebec. Just saying his name sends shivers down the spines of even the most hardened pirates and marines. This guy wasn't just another pirate, he was the pirate before Goldie Roger made history. Rox was so terrifying that the world government did everything in its power to erase him from history. That's right, this guy was so bad, they pulled a full-on cover-up operation, trying to make it seem like he never existed. If that doesn't scream big deal, I don't know what does. Rox weren't like the modern-day Yonko, who at least have some kind of weird pirate honor among themselves. No, this guy was all about chaos, destruction, and power. His goal? To overthrow the world government and become the king of the world. Yeah, not just Pirate King, he was thinking way bigger. He wanted to be the ultimate ruler, and he didn't care who he had to crush to make that happen. And the scariest part, he had a real shot at doing it. See, Rox wasn't just some lone madman. He led the Rox Pirates, a crew that could make any other pirate crew look like a bunch of schoolyard bullies. His crew included young versions of Whitebeard, Big Mom, Kaido, Shiki, Captain John, and more. Just imagine being a Marine and seeing those absolute monsters on the same ship, fighting together. It's no wonder Rox was seen as an unstoppable force. The only thing that seemed to hold him back was the fact that his crew hated each other almost as much as they hated the government. They were constantly fighting among themselves, which probably explains why Rox wasn't able to keep them all under control for long. Then came the Battle of God Valley, the fight that sealed Rox's fate. According to history, 38 years ago, Rox made a move on God Valley, a mysterious island where a bunch of celestial dragons just so happened to be hanging out. Whatever his exact plan was, it was so dangerous that the Marines had to make a desperate alliance with Goldie Roger himself just to stop him. Think about that. Roger and Garp teaming up. That's like Batman and the Joker deciding, you know what? We hate each other. But this guy is way worse. Luffy's true lineage. Breaking down the theory. All right, let's talk about one of the wildest theories floating around the One Piece community. What if Monkey D. Luffy is the grandson of Rox D. Xebec? I know, it sounds insane at first. Luffy, the happy-go-lucky rubber boy, being related to the most dangerous pirate in history? But hear me out. First off, let's look at Monkey D. Dragon, Luffy's father and the leader of the Revolutionary Army. Now, we know next to nothing about Dragon's past. He just popped up one day as the most wanted man in the world, leading a full-scale rebellion against the world government. Sounds a lot like what Rox was trying to do, doesn't it? Unlike Luffy, who just wants to be free, Dragon has a very calculated, strategic mind. He's not just out there picking fights, he's working toward a full-blown revolution. If anyone in this story has the same ambition as Rox, it's Dragon. But here's where it gets really interesting. What if Dragon isn't Garp's biological son? That would explain why he's so different from both Garp and Luffy. Garp is all about justice, even if he doesn't always agree with the Marines, and Luffy is all about adventure and freedom. But Dragon? He's an enigma. And if he is Rox's son, then Garp raising him suddenly makes a lot more sense. We already know Garp has a habit of taking in orphans, like Ace, so what if, after defeating Rox at God Valley, he took in Rox's child? This would also explain why Dragon barely interacts with other pirates. Think about it. Most major figures in One Piece have a past connection with someone. Roger, Whitebeard, and even Kaido all had ties to each other in some way. But Dragon? He just exists in his little world. Maybe it's because he's hiding something about his origins. If the world ever found out that the son of Rox was leading the Revolutionary Army, things would get ugly. Garp's role, raising the grandson of his greatest enemy? If the theory about Dragon being Rox's son is true, then Monkey D. Garp is out here pulling some next-level irony. Imagine spending your whole life fighting against Rox, only to end up raising both his son and his grandson. That's the kind of dramatic irony Oda would love. We already know that Garp has a habit of taking in kids with very complicated parents. He took in Ace, knowing full well he was Goldie Roger's son. And let's be real, he didn't do it out of the kindness of his heart. He did it because Roger personally asked him to. If Roger trusted Garp enough to raise his kid, maybe Rox had a similar situation. Maybe Garp found himself in a position where he couldn't let Rock's child be hunted down, so he raised him as his own. Now, Garp is a Marine legend, but he's also a rebel at heart. He's refused promotions, disobeyed direct orders, and never played politics. But he does care about family. Even though he's a hardcore Marine, he never turned in Dragon, despite his son becoming the world's most wanted criminal. He also trained Luffy, knowing full well the kid was going to be a pirate. And what if that's the reason he hates Shanks? We always thought Garp was mad at Shanks for turning Luffy into a pirate, but what if he hated him for another reason? What if Shanks, being as well connected as he is, knew the truth about Luffy's heritage? Dragon's mysterious past. Was he Rock's son? Monkey D. Dragon is hands down one of the most mysterious characters in One Piece. He's Luffy's dad, the leader of the Revolutionary Army, and the most wanted man in the world. But here's the thing, nobody knows anything about his past. No childhood flashbacks, no mentions of his mother, and barely any connection with Garp, except for a few awkward conversations. The guy just popped into history, fully grown, with a plan to overthrow the world government. That's way too suspicious. One wild theory that's been floating around is that Dragon isn't Garp's biological son, but Rox Xebec's son instead. Sounds crazy, right? But think about it. If Garp and Roger wiped out the Rox pirates at God Valley, what happened to any children left behind? Would the world government let Rock's bloodline continue running around freely? Garp is known for his weird habit of adopting kids from his enemies. See, Ace. What if he did the same thing with Dragon? If Rox had a son, the safest way to keep that kid from becoming a threat would be to raise him under Garp's watch. And Dragon, he's nothing like Garp. Garp is loud, goofy, and always talking about being a Marine. Dragon, silent, serious, and entirely dedicated to bringing down the world government. If Garp had raised Dragon from birth, wouldn't you expect at least a little bit of that goofy Garp energy to rub off on him? Instead, he's the complete opposite. That makes way more sense if he came from a completely different lineage, like, say, Rox Xebec. There's also the small matter of ambition. Rox wanted to overthrow the world government and rule the world. Dragon wants to overthrow the world government and, well, not rule the world, but burn it all down. Both of them had the guts to go after the Celestial Dragons in ways most pirates wouldn't even dare. Rock's plan at God Valley? Take out the Celestial Dragons directly. Dragon's entire career? Taking down the Celestial Dragons and everything they stand for. They may have different methods, but the mission sounds eerily familiar. The Shanks connection. Why does he fear Rock's return? Shanks is the most suspiciously well-connected pirate in the entire series. He's a Yonko, a former Roger pirate, and somehow he has enough pull to casually walk into the Gorosei's private chamber for a chat. Just let that sink in. The five elders, the guys who are essentially the secret rulers of the world, sat down and had a meeting with a pirate. No other pirate in history has been able to do that, not even Whitebeard. What did Shanks say to them? That's the million Bailey question. One theory, he was warning them about Luffy's lineage. Shanks has always been a little too interested in Luffy's journey. He gave him the straw hat, stopped by Marineford just to save him, and was even watching his bounty poster way before he was a big deal. Maybe he knew something we didn't. Maybe he wasn't just looking out for the next Pirate King. Maybe he was keeping an eye on Rox's heir. If Shanks knew Luffy was related to Rox, that could explain why he was so determined to stop him from becoming a pirate in the first place. Imagine this. You're one of the few people in the world who knows that a kid is carrying the blood of the most dangerous pirate in history. What do? Try to keep him on the straight and narrow. And if that doesn't work, well, maybe you do have a quiet little chat with the world's rulers to make sure they don't panic too soon. The crazy part? Shanks already has a known connection to Rox. He was found in a treasure chest after the God Valley incident, the same battle where Rox was defeated. Coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe Shanks grew up knowing about Rox and everything he stood for. Maybe he's been working from the shadows all this time, trying to prevent history from repeating itself. Luffy becoming a pirate was probably Shanks' worst nightmare come true. He's seen what happens when a man with Rock's ambition gets power. And even though Luffy's nothing like Rock's in personality, his ability to gather people around him is eerily similar. If Luffy ever found out about his lineage, really found out, there's no telling what could happen. Shanks isn't the kind of guy who gets scared easily, but when he went to the Gorosei, he looked worried. That meeting wasn't just some casual, "Hey guys, what's up" moment. He was there because something big was about to go down. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.